Hello, my dear old friends. How have you been feeling these days? I'm Dr. Thompson, and if this is your first time here, welcome. This is Retired Doctor, a small corner of peace, where we talk about health, dignity, and the quiet strength of growing older with grace. I've spent 50 years walking alongside patients, listening to their stories, and learning what keeps the heart and the sugar steady. If what we share today feels useful, please like, subscribe, and pass it along to someone you care about. And remember, this is for education and reflection. Always consult your doctor before changing anything in your care. Now, let's begin with something I've seen more times than I can count. It's a story about control, not the kind that comes from medicine, but from understanding. I once had a patient named Howard, 76 years old, retired teacher, full of jokes. But behind his laugh, there was worry. "Doc," he said, "I do everything right. I take the pills. I avoid sweets. But my numbers keep climbing." He paused, eyes heavy. "I feel like my body's betraying me." I told him something that startled him. "Howard, it's not your body that's failing, it's your rhythm." He didn't understand at first. So I explained. The human body, especially after 60, runs not just on sugar or medicine, but on timing when you move, when you eat, when you rest. Diabetes doesn't punish what you eat. It punishes when you stop paying attention. The people who stay healthy deep into their 80s, the 1% who never let diabetes grow heavy, are not those who live perfectly. They're the ones who live rhythmically, who move after meals, eat with patience, and listen when their bodies whisper before they shout. I remember showing Howard something simple, a small walk, right after lunch. Not power walking, not exercise, just a stroll down the street, the kind where the mind drifts and the blood moves. I told him, 15 minutes of gentle movement does more for your blood sugar than an extra pill ever could. He laughed, thinking it couldn't possibly matter. 3 months later, he came back with his logbook. His numbers had dropped. "You were right," he said. "I didn't change my food. I changed my timing." That's when I started calling it the dance. The dance between food, movement, and rest. When one gets out of rhythm, the others stumble. But when they flow together, even an aging body finds balance again. The 1% know this instinctively. They never rush through meals. They never skip the walk after dinner. They drink water slowly, letting it remind their hearts that they're still part of the cycle. These people, they're not immune to aging. They've just learned how to move with it instead of against it. I once watched an old couple in the park, maybe in their late 70s, walking hand in hand, talking about what to cook for dinner. They stopped halfway through their walk to laugh about a forgotten name, then kept going. They didn't know they were exercising. They were living. That's what health looks like when it's effortless. The truth is, diabetes is not a disease of sugar. It's a disease of disconnection. You forget the relationship between what you eat and what you do afterward. You forget that your muscles are the body's best tool for clearing sugar out of the blood. When you walk after a meal, you're not just burning calories. You're giving your body permission to process what it's been given. I've seen patients chase numbers for decades. The perfect diet, the perfect medication, the perfect routine, and still feel lost. But when they start paying attention to rhythm, not rules, everything changes. Their mornings feel steadier. Their appetite softens. Their mood lifts. The body, like an orchestra, simply needs its conductor back. One of my patients, Alma, used to wake up with dizziness every morning. Her blood sugar spiked high and crashed low. We discovered she was skipping breakfast, waiting until noon to eat. I asked her to try something small, half a banana, a handful of nuts, and a short walk after. The next week, she came back glowing. "Doc," she said, "I didn't think such small things mattered." They do. The 1% are made of people like her, people who take small habits seriously. You don't need to be perfect to control your blood sugar. You need to be consistent. Walk after meals. Divide your plate into smaller portions. Fill half with greens, not because they're magical, but because they slow down how fast sugar enters your blood. Drink a full glass of water after every meal, not because it flushes toxins, but because it gives your body time to balance itself. You see, the 1% are not lucky, they're mindful. They know when to pause, when to move, and when to say no to excess. They don't chase shortcuts. They live in cycles. Howard once told me, months after his turnaround, "Doc, it's funny. I thought I had to fight my body. Turns out, I just had to listen to it." And that's the moment every patient must reach the realization that your body isn't your enemy. It's your oldest friend, tired maybe, but still trying to help you stay alive. You just have to hear it again. Tonight, as you sit after dinner, don't reach for the remote immediately. Stand up, take a short walk, even if it's only to the mailbox. Let your blood move. Feel your body working with you, not against you. That's how it begins, not with control, but with cooperation. And remember, my friends, the 1% who never suffer from heavy diabetes are not chasing perfection. They've simply learned the rhythm of kindness toward their own bodies. There's something deeply human about the way we deal with illness. We either fight it or fear it, but very few of us learn to befriend it. I've seen countless patients walk into my office with guilt on their faces. They think diabetes is punishment for something they did wrong: too much dessert, too little exercise, too many careless years. But that's not the truth. Diabetes doesn't arrive to punish. It arrives to remind. It reminds you to slow down, to notice what you eat, to listen to your body's whispers before they become alarms. The 1%, those rare elders who carry lightness in their steps, even in their 80s, understand this. They treat their diagnosis not as a prison, but as a teacher. They take their medicine, yes, but they also take time to chew, to walk, to breathe, to laugh. They've learned that the sweetness of life has little to do with sugar. I remember a woman named Claire, 81 years old, who came to me after a mild diabetic episode. She cried not because of fear, but because she felt ashamed. "I should have known better," she said. I held her hand and told her softly, "You don't need shame. You need rhythm." She looked puzzled, and I explained, "Shame freezes the body. Rhythm frees it. When you forgive yourself, your body forgives you too." That's when she started walking again, 15 minutes after every meal, sometimes humming old hymns under her breath. 3 months later, she returned, smiling like sunlight. "Doc, I feel lighter," she said. "Not just my sugar, my mind." What happened to Claire wasn't a miracle. It was peace. When you let go of guilt, your body stops fighting itself. Your hormones shift. Your sleep improves. Your hunger softens. You start working with your biology instead of against it. The 1% never let guilt rule them. They know that health isn't a war to be won, it's a rhythm to be remembered. They don't panic at a high number. They adjust. They don't punish themselves for a slice of pie at Thanksgiving. They walk after it, smiling. They know that balance is built, not forced. I once had a friend, another doctor, who developed type 2 diabetes after retirement. He called me one evening, voice heavy. "It's embarrassing," he said. "I've treated hundreds of diabetic patients, and now I am one." I told him something I'd told many others. "You're not a doctor with diabetes. You're a man whose body is asking for gentleness." Silence followed. Then he whispered, "I think I've been too harsh with myself." That was his turning point. Not the new diet, not the pills, the forgiveness. You see, forgiveness changes chemistry. When your mind softens, your body follows. The stress hormones, the silent saboteurs of blood sugar, begin to calm. Your cells become receptive again. Even your digestion improves. Science calls it parasympathetic activation. I call it kindness. And this is where reflection begins. The 1% have learned to observe without judgment. They notice how their bodies respond to breakfast, how stress alters their afternoon readings, how laughter steadies their pulse. They keep small notes, not to obsess, But to learn, every day becomes a quiet experiment in self-understanding. One man, Harold, used to bring me a tiny notebook every visit. In it, he had written lunch tuna salad, walked 10 minutes, blood sugar 100. Another day, pizza, skipped walk 156. He looked at me, chuckling. Doc, my body's tattling on me. I laughed and told him, no, Harold, it's talking to you. That's the difference between fear and awareness. One shuts the door, the other opens it. If you begin to look at your glucose monitor not as a scoreboard but as a conversation, you'll start to hear your body in new ways. You'll notice that your blood sugar rises not only from food, but from anger, loneliness, or lack of sleep. You'll realize that the heart and pancreas speak the same language. They both crave calm. The 1% nurture that calm. They go for walks. They take naps. They garden. They talk to neighbors. They live slowly on purpose. I think of my father sometimes. He was not a doctor, but he was the wisest man I knew. He used to say, you can't rush a tree to grow, son. You can only make sure it has sunlight and water. That's exactly how the body works at 80. You can't force it to behave, but you can give it what it needs. Good food, kind movement, rest, and a peaceful mind. If you can do that, even imperfectly, you'll begin to feel the shift. You'll wake up with steadier hands, clearer thoughts, and a little more ease in your chest. You'll no longer fear the small numbers on a screen because you'll understand what they mean, messages, not threats. So the next time you measure your blood sugar, don't do it with dread. Do it with curiosity. Ask your body, what are you trying to tell me? Then listen. Sometimes the answer is simple. Drink water. Take a walk. Rest. Sometimes the answer is silence, and that silence means you're doing just fine. The journey toward balance begins not with willpower, but with awareness. And once you start listening, truly listening, you'll find that your body has been waiting all along to heal. Hope often begins quietly, like the steady beat of a heart that refuses to give up. I've seen it in the way an old man adjusts his belt after a walk, in the way a grandmother smiles when her blood sugar finally holds steady, in the way people discover they are still capable of change. The 1%, those elders who live light and strong even in their 80s, they all share that same quiet hope. They know that small adjustments can lead to great peace. Diabetes is not the end of health. It's an invitation to learn your body's rhythm again. You see, your body is always on your side. It doesn't forget you. It just needs reminders, a glass of water before meals, a short walk after, a moment of gratitude before sleep. These are not treatments. They're conversations with yourself. And when you answer with patience, your body listens. I remember one man, Ray, who came to me after decades of struggling with his diabetes. He had grown tired of numbers, of dates, of disappointment. He looked at me and said, Doc, I'm too old to start over. I smiled and told him, you don't need to start over. You just need to begin again, right here, right now. We worked on one thing, walking after dinner. No goals, no targets, just 15 minutes of gentle motion. A month later, he told me he slept better. 3 months later, his blood sugar stabilized. But what mattered more was this: his laughter returned. That's what hope looks like. Not perfect numbers, not medical miracles, just the return of ease, the rediscovery of joy. The 1% find beauty in the ordinary. They walk slowly, but consistently. They eat mindfully. They share stories with people they love. They live without hurry, without resentment. They treat each day as a gentle collaboration between mind and body. If you want to protect yourself from the heavy shadow of diabetes, look not at restriction but at rhythm. Let each meal be balanced, each bite be slower, each moment be felt. Don't think of walking as exercise. Think of it as harmony. Don't think of vegetables as rules. Think of them as the colors of life returning to your plate. When you eat, when you move, when you rest, Imagine you are tuning an instrument that has been playing a little out of key. In time, you'll find your melody again. And I promise you, it's never too late. The body remembers kindness, no matter when it begins. You may be 70, 80, or beyond. Your cells still respond to care. Every heartbeat is an opportunity to begin again. Every step after dinner, every sip of water, every good night's sleep, all of it builds toward balance. So tonight, before bed, take a small moment to whisper thanks to your body. It has carried you through storms you've forgotten. It has never stopped trying. Promise it a little gentleness, tomorrow a shorter meal, a slower walk. That's what the 1% do. They live in partnership with themselves. They treat their health not as a chore, but as a quiet act of gratitude. And maybe that's the real medicine, not the pills, not the tests, but the decision to live kindly. Because when you do, your sugar softens, your blood steadies, and your spirit lifts. You become lighter, calmer, clearer. Not because you've cured anything, but because you've learned how to listen. What we've discovered together is simple but powerful. Diabetes doesn't define you, awareness does. The 1% who never suffer from heavy diabetes aren't chasing perfection. They've simply found peace in rhythm. They eat slowly, walk after meals, drink water with intention, and forgive themselves quickly. They know that every gentle action teaches the body to trust again. Your blood sugar is not your enemy. It's a messenger. Listen when it rises. Thank it when it calms. And stay kind through both. That is how balance returns, one meal, one walk, one patient breath at a time. I'm Dr. Thompson, and I'm grateful you've shared these minutes with me. Until our next talk, keep your steps light, your meals calm, and your spirit steady. Remember, health is not the absence of illness, it's the presence of peace.